Good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well. My name is Dr. Nanette K. Hartley. I will be your lab instructor for 111L this term. I will be working with Professor Twinter to make sure that you guys get as much information out of 111 as you possibly can. I'm going to show you around in the D2L shell, show you where things are, what you're going to have to turn in, where those turn in locations are. I wanted to give you a video so that just in case you can't remember something, you're like, where was that again? You can go check the video and see exactly what you need to do. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my D2L shell that you guys have as well. Let's see if we can do that. All right, and this is the D2L shell for Chem 111 for this term. Obviously, there's no announcement here from me, but there will be in a little bit. I wanted to record this video first. When you go into content, you will see the lab information is down here under the table of contents, syllabus and schedule, Alex, 1, 2, and 3, and then the lab. You'll have lab documents and then your experiment information, all of your different experiments. And if you come into the lab documents, you'll see that there are several things here. So you'll see that there are course policies. I do have some course policies. I want you to be familiar with them, and to ensure that you've opened them and read them, I'm going to put together a scavenger hunt for you guys to go and check everything. And I will ask the things that I think are the most important out of that to see whether you've read those documents. And I will also be taking a look to see if you read the documents. So there is a way that I can check that. You have a syllabus addendum for me. Here it doesn't say a whole heck of a lot. Just some talk about my expectations, what my office hours are, your required materials, safety, because that's a big thing in the lab. Your lab notebooks, there is a separate document for the lab notebooks, so that will be important. And then the labs themselves. So there is information that needs to go with that, and I will show you all of the parts that we need. There's some more information about how, what kinds of things I need to see in your lab notebooks. We need a sample calculation for everything, which is what this is talking about right here. And this is the kind of thing I want to see for that. Notice that it is required for you to, in order to pass this class, to attend every single lab. Okay, that is a requirement in order to pass. So if there are weird things that happen, something that comes up, and you cannot make a class, you need to let me know and we'll see what we can do about that. Okay, so that needs to happen. One of the big things is that this is my late policy. Notice it says Tuesday and Thursday labs will be turned in to D2L on Tuesday. So if we do a lab on Thursday, it's due the following Tuesday. If we do a lab on Tuesday, it's due the following Tuesday. So everything is due on Tuesday. I hope to have those graded in D2L by Thursday. I've given myself some time on Wednesday to do that. I firmly believe that all labs should be graded together at the same time, because if there are things that the entire class has missed, then that's something that I need to take into account. But as soon as I grade a particular set of labs, I tend to forget what went with what class. So if I grade a lab late, it gets graded differently. And so we want to avoid that. We don't want that to happen. Bearing that in mind, I have the following late policy. If you turn in your lab on Wednesday as opposed to Tuesday, that is a 20% penalty. Thursday is a 40%, Friday is a 60%, and the following Monday is the last day that I will accept that lab. Okay, so that's the way that is set up on D2L. So what you'll see is that if it's beyond that point in D2L, the turn-in box will be closed, and you will not be allowed to turn it in any longer. In the event that it is like that and you want to turn that lab into me, you're going to have to talk to me about it. And I will decide at that time whether or not I have time to deal with it. Okay. So it does say the lab reports will not be accepted past that point. That's usually how I handle things. Okay. So I've talked about that part, which is the really big part. There is something that I want to say about safety. Safety is a huge deal in the lab, and there are a couple of things that come up with that. One of those is eating, drinking. You're not supposed to eat or drink in the lab. That includes chewing gum, because gum can pick up the same things from the air that other food can. That's a bad idea. Wearing contacts, especially in the 111 lab, can be a bad idea because what can happen is the chemicals can concentrate underneath the contact lens and become more of a problem for you than they would be otherwise. So we need to make sure that is something you take into consideration. Now, we cannot ban contact lenses from the lab, but you need to remember that if you choose to wear them, that is your responsibility. Okay. There will be no unauthorized experimentation in the lab. If I see you do an experiment that is not what we are supposed to be doing that day, you will be kicked out for the day. If it happens more than once, you will be asked to leave that lab and never allowed to return. That is a safety issue and it is not something to play with. Okay. You are expected to wear appropriate clothing in the laboratory. That means closed-toed shoes, and I encourage long pants. Okay. I do not want you wearing shorts. It is not a good idea. Now, understand that I do not have a lot of sympathy for this because I went to school first in California, then in Arizona, and I was expected to wear pants to all of my laboratories. Didn't matter what temperature it was, didn't matter how hot it was, really didn't care. They just expected us to do that. So I don't think it's ridiculous to expect that you're wearing pants. Okay. Um, no vaping, no smoking in the lab. Please don't have any drink containers in the lab either because they can pick up chemicals. If you need to have a beverage, I always have a beverage outside the door. So you can do that and you can step out to have a beverage. I'm a type 1 diabetic. Occasionally I will need to step out to eat something just because if I don't, that's going to be bad for you guys. So that is something that you can do as well. I would prefer that you not be on your cell phones in the laboratory, but if you do need to take a call, step out in the hallway, take the call. Not a big deal. It's not a huge problem. All right. Like I said, there is a separate document about lab notebooks. So I'm kind of a stickler on lab notebooks. Your lab notebook is a legal document that can be used in defense of patents, things like that, if you're working in an industrial environment. Now, I know that we're not doing that here, but we're supposed to be providing you training to be able to do that. So it's important to me that you get that. And the reason that I think it's so important is because I walked into a laboratory thinking, oh no, well, nobody's ever going to have to read my lab notebook, right? And I'll be able to read it when I look at it later. I'll be able to figure it out. One of the patent cases that came up when I was working in industry, my boss had to read my lab notebook for one of them. And then my boss's boss had to read another one. He didn't even know my handwriting. So these are things that we need to keep in a certain way to make that work. Okay. So I've provided you with an example. This is my table of contents. I obviously don't have everything in the table of contents. There will be blanks in your table of contents because it's not going to be complete to start. But then it goes into what the experiment is, how I expect this information to look. You can, if you choose, print out the instructions from D2L and tape them into your lab notebook. I will tell you right now that if you do that, you will not be as prepared to perform your experiment when you come into the lab and it will take you longer. That's just how it goes. If you've written everything down and know exactly what you need to do, then things tend to get processed a lot faster. Okay. I leave space for myself so that I can see, okay, what data do I need to collect? What, information do I need to make that work? Some of the things that I used to collect, which balance number did I use? Because the balance, we want to be using the same balance every time. They don't all read the same, so we want to make sure that we're doing that, especially when we're working with other people. A couple of other things. You'll notice I made a mistake here, which I did. I had to initial and date that. Okay, this is what I call an American format date. I don't typically use them. You'll see me write it in the other direction. So date, so like 12 May 2022. It's to avoid ambiguity. I used to work for a company that was based in Europe, so it avoids the ambiguity because only Americans use month, day, year. The rest of the world uses day, month, year. So any excess space needs to be crossed out, initialed, and dated. and then you need a place for countersign. Okay, so I don't care if you actually write it like this. It really doesn't matter, but you need to sign at the end of when you do work for the day, and someone else needs to sign that. So I need to sign your lab notebook before you leave. Now the thing is, I don't grade lab notebooks the same way that Professor Simmons did in 110. I don't collect your notebooks. What I expect is that you're going to give me a copy of your lab notebook pages with each lab. Failure to do so will result in a 20-point deduction on your lab. So you automatically get a C. Yay, isn't that fun? So it's that important that I be able to see your raw data when I'm grading your laboratory. Breakdown for other things in what I'm looking for in the lab. I think are in the course policies. Let me see if that's actually in here. Actually, it's not, but I do expect you to read that. Yes, I do expect you to read that. This one I had my actual grade breakdown in here. Oh, yes, it is. So for the lab, you'll see that there's a pre-lab that is 20 points of your grade for the summary and pre-lab. They're graded together, so it's 20 points for that. Your lab summary includes your lab notebook, not the manual, the notebook. That's 20 points. A copy of your lab notebook pages for that lab must be included. 60 points for all of the questions asked in the summary document. So all of those questions need to be answered. Please make sure when you print those questions out, or however you do them, that they start at number 1. We've had some problems with the 111 documents not showing all of the questions. So make sure that you have all of the questions, right? So that needs to be done for that. The summary and the pre-lab will be turned in together. Then you will turn in your post-lab. Your post-lab is 100 points. Your summary and pre-lab is 100 points, okay? Those will be turned in under assignments. And what you'll see is that for each lab, there's going to be a place where you should be turning that in. All right, so summary and pre-lab turn in, you'll turn that in here. There's documents here that go with that. I haven't linked all of them, but I'm trying to get that done today. So hopefully all of the documents that you need to be able to turn in for that will be linked there. If they're not there, i.e. if I don't remember to do it or if something happens, you'll find those under content. And again, I will show you that. So for experiment 1, you'll see that there's a lab 1 pre-lab and summary. All of this pre-lab stuff is what you need in your notebook before you come to lab. If you don't have that, you do not get to do the lab. So you either sit outside and do it before you come into the lab, and then because everyone has started working, you get to work on your own to do that experiment, or you get to leave for the day. But remember that you need to have actually done all of the experiments, so that is a bad idea. All right, so all of this data is data that you will need to collect. This is meant to guide you on what you need to calculate, how you need to calculate it, and what needs to be done. Your lab summary has a bunch of questions. Again, all of this is here. Hooray. Do whatever it says. Sometimes these experiments have spreadsheets that go with them. If that spreadsheet is there, you need to make sure that you turn that in. There will be instructions for the spreadsheets too. So under experiment 1, you'll see experiment 1 spreadsheet instructions. If you fail to turn in the spreadsheet that goes with it, that's a 20-point deduction as well. So that needs to get turned in as well. So there's your pre-lab and summary, there's your post-lab. You will find that for everything, except for experiments 10 and 11, both of which are virtual. For experiment 6, there is no physical lab that goes with that. Okay, the only thing that happens with the experiment 6, there is a pre-lab. There are some questions that you'll get asked for that. It says the lab summary is to balance the redox reactions, which have been given to you. They are actually out of the lab manual, so you'll need to have those. And I thought that I had put those up there. I need to put those up. Okay. So the question should be there as well. And this is a document about the redox balancing, how you can balance those questions. these 8 steps are what you need to do every time. And if you do them this way, it should work out fine. Doesn't always, but it should. So that's the way that that gets handled. I think that's everything about the lab stuff. I don't think there's anything else that's weird. If there is, oh, that's the other thing. Fairly soon, you will see for each of these that there, oh, no, there is not. Never mind. Wrong class. Sorry. So that's everything that you need for that. So if there are any questions, comments, problems, anything at all, let me know. Like I said, I will try and make sure that those links go up in the assignments so that you know exactly what needs to get turned in so that you can see what's there and you won't have to go look for it or whatever. Just another place that we want to make sure that you guys have everything you need. Okay. So any questions, comments, problems? If you have any, let's talk on Tuesday. We will be doing our intros on Tuesday. We will talk about what is, all of the things that we talked about here, all of the rest of it. I'll send you home to do your scavenger hunt. And then Thursday, we will get together to do our first experiment, which is it's actually a colorimetry lab. So you'll be making a complex based on the how concentrated that complex is. It'll change the color so we can actually read that. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So hopefully that will help you with understanding equilibrium. So, all right, I guess that's it. Thank you for sitting while I ramble. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.